In terms of the practices that we need to adopt, I'd like to say this, that we keep talking about international standards. Food is a very local thing, and while we may be going into a world where 50 years down the line all of us will be having a white grey powder which has no flavor, and that's what the future of food is. I don't know, I hope not. The fact is that food is a very local thing because of tastes, because of cultures, because of the environment that you're in. And we are actually losing a lot. People who are here from farming, if you look back, not even very far, maybe 20, 25 years, certainly if you look back 50 years, what was being farmed, we've lost probably 30-40% of that produce because there's no demand. Because it is difficult to grow, because it's seasonal, because it is difficult to process, difficult to sell. And if you go to the sabziwala today versus if you went to the sabziwala 10 years ago, you'll find that the variety of produce has actually diminished. So while we're talking about food processing, what is happening is, and I'd like to mention this, sometimes we come to conferences like this and we run our businesses, we run with a split personality. We do what is convenient for the business. We do what is good for the business in terms of cost, in terms of ease of processing, in terms of ease of selling, etc., etc. When it comes to us as consumers, we want fresh, we want variety, we want flavor, we want color, we want all of it. Why do we have this split personality? Why can't we actually combine the two and do what is right for us as consumers, our children as consumers, the environment in the future as well? Sustainability should be a big driver, and we forget that. The kind of food processing which is going on right now, by and large, the kind of plants which are being put up, are based on technology which was developed in North America and Europe between 1900 and say 1960-70. That's been the most wasteful part of the last century in terms of energy, in terms of water, in terms of labor, in terms of anything. It's resource intensive. Now imagine, even if 20% of India, 200 odd million people, started to live and depend on that kind of a lifestyle and that kind of an industrial structure, this country will be finished, certainly the world would be finished. We can't do that. So we've got to do stuff which is, which is good for us as consumers, the environment as a whole, and good for the business. It can't just be one. We can't be unidimensional in our thinking. Last point, I think diversity is a very, very important part of the food supply chain. And diversity means that there are many. We tend to look at large companies as being the standard and therefore large being good. But the fact is that if you take food, which is an integral part, you can not live without air, you can live without food and water for a few days. You can't survive. You can live without clothes for your entire life. Okay. If, let's say, the food supply chain and the food, even the processing and everything else, the acquisition, the agriculture, if it gets consolidated beyond a certain point, it becomes extremely vulnerable. So anybody who's, looked at financial services, risk management, or any kind of, risk assessment kind of thing, you would know that it is good to have a diversified basket. From the point of view of farming, from the point of view of manufacturing, from the point of view of retail, consolidation beyond a certain point is actually detrimental to quality and to safety. So if we're looking at food safety, if we're looking at sustainability, we need to actually encourage many, many, many entrepreneurs, many small businesses. And for that, I think, I don't know if anybody is there from the government sitting in this audience, but Make in India will only happen if we make it easier. Today, all of us who are in business know that India is one of the most hostile environments to do business of any sort. It doesn't matter whether you're manufacturing, whether you're a truck driver, whether you're running a consulting business. With all the regulation, we don't lack regulation, we have too much regulation. We don't have an environment where it is easy to do business. If that can happen, we will find that we will have an extremely diverse and vibrant ecosystem which will grow, and we can actually be the standard, the international standard, which can be followed by everybody else. And I think what we should do is try and get the government to move towards that direction. And if we can do that, if that's one outcome we can achieve out of this conference, I'll be really, really happy. Thank you so much.